Hi folks, Dan here. I just wanted to take a second before the video to apologize that it took almost a week to get this video out after Pro Tour. Unfortunately, when I got home on Monday, I was fine. Tuesday I recorded the video, and Tuesday night I was going to start editing it. Tuesday night I started feeling a little sick, so I went down for a nap. Woke up Wednesday and unfortunately felt really sick, so I just didn't really have it in me to edit the video, and then Thursday I came to find out that I, in fact, had COVID. I don't think anyone that I encountered during the event has anything to worry about in terms of getting COVID from me. Based on the timeline, I would assume that I contracted it from someone at the event or someone somewhere else in Baltimore on Sunday, roundabout. So no worries, don't freak out. Obviously, at this point, if you haven't gotten COVID, then you have nothing to worry about. But yeah, it sucked. It's been a hell of a week. I've been on my ass the whole time, pretty much. Haven't had the mental fortitude whatsoever to even think about editing this video, and I feel really bad about it. I've seen every content creator put up all their Pro Tour stuff, and I said, as soon as I'm feeling even remotely good, I gotta get this out there. So that's today. I'm gonna get this thing edited, gonna get it posted today on Sunday. I just want to come out and say thank you for your patience and thank you for your continued support watching my channel. So without further ado, I present to you Babbling On Pro Tour Baltimore. Welcome back to Ravenous Babble. My name is Dan, and today I'll be babbling on about Pro Tour Baltimore in post. I've got a lot to talk about regarding last weekend, so let's get right into it. Start off with Thursday night, the players' reception. The Baltimore Convention Center. I've been there before for Otakon years ago, before that convention moved to Washington, D.C., but I was still taken aback by the size of the venue. This was just the main hall that we were in, instead of the full convention center like a typical anime convention would be like Otakon, but it was more than enough. You get in there, you see flesh and blood, wall to wall. You're presented immediately with a display that has a map of the venue, showing you where all the vendors are, the different play spaces, the prize wall, the event stage, and the map itself is drawn and designed to look like a map of Wraith, which is dope. That map was awesome. I was kind of concerned that they would only be there for Thursday night for the players' reception and that everyone wouldn't be able to get one, but they had a ton of them. They were there throughout the weekend. Everyone was able to get one if you wanted one as a souvenir. They were really cool. To the left was the prize wall, which was my first stop just to see, do they finally have the cold foil rune chant token? And they didn't, but they had cold foil gold. The first time seeing the cold foil gold token at the prize wall, so kind of had that as a goal in the back of my head for the weekend, and we'll get to that later on. To the right was the event stage, and housed right there in glass was the Prism statue that they showed off in a video during the World's Players reception. That thing's gorgeous. In person, it is spectacular. And right next to it was a PCG 10 cold foil adult prism, graded 9.5, 10, 10, 10, almost a straight up perfect 10. I don't know how we're gonna get that statue yet, if it's gonna be a limited release that we can just purchase, but if it is, y'all should start saving if you want one, because it's top notch. Moving into the venue, there's vendors as far as the eye can see, not so much selling anything on Thursday night, mostly just getting set up, maybe showing off products, like Brandon at Metal Fab Tokens was showing off all his new stuff, but not selling anything that night. He was still waiting for some people to bring in some product to be delivered to the event, but I was able to go up to him and introduce myself. We've been talking through email and Twitter for a little while now, but it was nice to be able to put a face to a name. So once we did that, throughout the weekend we'd see each other here and there and be like, hey, how you doing? It was really cool to be able to actually meet him in person. I got to meet up with Paul, who came in from the Netherlands. Paul, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry I'm not saying your last name to let people know how cool you are, but I would definitely butcher that last name. But Paul, I got to meet up with him. He had my cold foil plague hive to deliver in person. So that was really cool to finally have that just in the nick of time, because I wanted to get it signed by Mark Poole. So again, Paul, for that, thank you. It means the world to me. They did early pickup for all the packages, or at least the calling package. And if you ordered the other 2 playmats online, the Lorebook cover and the Swirling Mist playmat, as well as your Crown of Providence sleeves, Crown of Providence playmat if you're in the calling, your promo packs, etc., etc. So it was really cool that we got to pick those up early, because having to carry all that stuff in addition to whatever I would have picked up on Friday or whenever throughout the weekend would have been a little difficult. Going there with no bag, I was able to just get all that. My friend Bill was able to find a bag for us, so we just kind of threw it all in there and brought it back that way. Then it was time to move on to the Dusk Till Dawn presentation, where they showed a short cinematic. They showed the Young Prism card, with the exception of the text box. But we got the art, we got the name, Prism, Advent of Thrones, 4 intellect, 16 health, Light Illusionist hero, Young. Now when I saw this, I thought, oh, wow, this means we're not getting an adult Prism. Maybe my theory on Shion is correct. Yeah, I had that thought for a while, and then Fab TCG put out an article regarding Dusk Till Dawn a day or 2 later, and mentioned Prism Awakener of Soul, the adult version of Prism that's going to be out in Dusk Till Dawn. And then it occurred to me, oh, they can't just have Prism Young without a title, because that card already exists. So that whole precedent that we've had before, where a young hero wouldn't have a title if they would have an adult version, kind of goes out the window here, right? Like, we see Benji with his title, Kasai with her title, and we know that those heroes aren't going to have adult versions, at least with the same ability. But here, the Young Prism has to have a different ability. So it makes sense that they have different names. We have Prism Advent of Thrones and Prism Awakener of Soul. In addition, they showed off Vincent. Now, they showed off her card, but without the text box and also without the art. We wouldn't see the art until Sunday of last weekend. So we saw Vincent, 4 intellect, 20 health, Shadow Runeblade hero, Young. Now, since we're on the topic of Dusk Till Dawn spoilers, we might as well talk about what was revealed on Sunday. And that was something that I was theorizing with a couple other people, that art we saw of the Dory kind of looking figure, or Kasai looking figure, depending on who you ask, would actually be Wartune Herald in their humanoid form. And it did turn out to be that. It turned out to be Bellona, who is the character mentioned on Wartune Herald, Archangel of War. And it is nearly identical to the mechanics of Soraya. So we're kind of going down that path now with the Light Illusionist, it feels like. Something notable, though, that is different is that instead of it being a Light Illusionist Angel Ally, it is a Light Angel Ally. And assuming the front isn't different, which it shouldn't be, that would mean that unless there's some special condition to playing the card, like having a Spectral Shield or something, which I don't think it is, I think it'll be cards in your soul or something like that, if anything, that would mean that Bolton can use Bellona, Archangel of War, as well. Now, I assume it's going to be legendary because it is a named character, so there's that as well. I believe they also said that there would be 8 Archangels in the set. I could be wrong, but that's something to look forward to. And Bellona reads, because they gave us the full card on this, they didn't give us the full card, they give us the backside, the actual ally itself. It has attack for 2 resources, 4 power, 4 health. When Bellona attacks, you may banish a card from your hero's soul. If you do, put a +1 attack counter on each angel you control, and it also has word 4, which means we're probably going to see Angel Tribal in a way. Now, when I see Angel Tribal, I think that maybe Vincent will be some sort of demon tribal, that maybe she will be some sort of portal-wielding, demon-summoning Shadow Runeblade. And maybe they're going to go the full light and shadow, angel and demon trope. They're just going to go full send with this set. And I think that'd be pretty interesting. I don't know how it'll work mechanically in terms of the Shadow Runeblade, because we don't have a precedent for that like we do with Soraya and now the example of Bellona, but it's definitely interesting to think about. Now, it's LSS, so it could be anything. It could be something totally different, but If I had to make a guess, I think it's probably going to be something like that. Something else they showed off about the set is that there will be 8 legendaries in Dusk Till Dawn. So considering the most we've seen so far has been 5, I have a strong suspicion that at least one of these cards is going to be a reprint. And I would venture to guess that one of those, at least one, if there's going to be at least one reprint, is going to be Crown of Providence. Now, hear me out. I know it's still in print, I think. Maybe not by the time Dusk Till Dawn comes out. I don't know what the timeline of that looks like. But it doesn't really make sense for them to do Carrion Husk or Phantasmal Footsteps for a few reasons. One, they're both in History Pack 2 Black Label, which is already out in Europe. They'll both be in History Pack 2 White Label when it comes out next year. And they announced that the Dusk Till Dawn release event would feature Monarch Limited. So if we're going to be getting some Carrion Husks and Phantasmal Footsteps out into the open during the release event, does it make sense to reprint those into this set if they're also going to be reprinted next year and kind of sort of just got reprinted in a very limited fashion? I don't think it does. I think my first hunch went right to that, but after thinking about it, I think this is an opportune time for them to do Crown of Providence, because like Tunic, like Skullcap when it was popular, those generic legendaries are going to get more and more expensive, and we're seeing that now with Crown of Providence. And since it's a generic, it is going to need that non-foil reprint probably sooner rather than later, and a supplemental set is the best way to go, which I feel like some people are forgetting that this is like a supplemental or expansion set, whatever they call it now, the not draft set. This is that. People might be forgetting that since it's so heavily themed with light and shadow, but there could still be support for literally every class in this set, even if it's just a card this time around, because of how focused it needs to be, or is going to be. But I think that Crown of Providence could definitely be in this set, because outside of any of those supplemental or expansion sets moving forward, whenever they may be, because I know they're trying to switch to a 3-to-1 ratio now, and I think this is the last set of this kind that we're going to see before they go into that. We wouldn't have a chance to see Crown of Providence until that next supplemental set, or until History Pack 3 if they keep going at the same rate as they have been with the History Packs. And that wouldn't be until 2026, since they said they want to do it every other year. So I think we're going to need a Crown of Providence reprint before then, and I think this is going to be a good time. Plus the 8 legendaries is what really throws me off with it, because we only have 5 at most up till now. I could see them maybe going to 6 or 7 new ones, but 8 is a lot. So maybe we will see 7 new ones, but maybe we'll also see a reprint of Crown of Providence. Time will tell, but I would put money on that. Now, if you need a Crown of Providence, I wouldn't put money on it in the sense that I would wait. I would just get your Crown of Providence instead of risking it, because you never know with the market, and this isn't financial advice, but you never know with the market, because people might assume that it's going to get reprinted, and it might go down in price, Command and Conquer, and then it doesn't actually get reprinted. Because we don't consider that Fable Command and Conquer reprint. We can all agree on that, right? And then Command and Conquer went back up in price. It went further up in price, even. So if you need a Crown of Providence, don't gamble like that. I would just get it. And worst comes to worst, it's going to be a non-foil Crown of Providence. So you'll have a rainbow foil, or you'll have a cold foil that won't be reprinted in the future. It will maintain its value. We've seen that in the market with similar examples. Now, will it dip in the short term? Probably. But in the long term, you will maintain the value that you've spent on that card more than likely. Speaking of reprints, let's talk about the big announcement they had for this set, in my opinion, and that's the serialized cards. Now, Wizards of the Coast has been doing serialized cards recently, but it doesn't really feel like they're special, if you ask me. 500 of a random card that people are just like, whatever. There's no attachment to that. Sure, you open it and you're like, oh wow, I opened something rare, but there's nothing special about that. It feels like an illusion. Like, They want you to feel like you opened something special, but really you just opened scrap trawler number 259. Okay, that's not special, you know? Now, I will give Wizards of the Coast props on one thing, and that's the One Ring. I think that's incredible. I would have liked to see them follow the numbers for the different lords, like the dwarf lords, the elf lords, and the humans and all them, that made the other rings of power as well. I would have liked to see them follow the exact numbers for those. And they kind of did, but they tacked on 2 zeros for each. And sure, Magic's huge. You need that volume. But could you imagine how special even those would be if you opened any of the rings of power and they were all actually within their fictional population, you know? That would have been cool. I think that was a miss there, but that's me. Magic the Gathering, neither here nor there. We're talking about Flesh and Blood. I feel like Flesh and Blood saw that, and they said, hold my beer. They announced, and this was one line at a time on a PowerPoint, and each line made the crowd go crazier and crazier. They announced that they would be reprinting and honoring Prism and Chain, who have moved to the Living Legend status in Classic Constructed. They would be reprinting their cards, 10 of each, as cold foils. They would be serialized, and they would be hand-drawn by the original artists, Livia Prima and Federico Musetti. That's just a win. Hand-drawn, 10 of each, serialized cold foil of the hero. That's memorable. That's special. Those cards are going to be worth a ton. You can't just have serialized cards and expect them to be special. They have to feel special, and these feel special. And the feeling you get if you open one of these, if you're one of the 20 people that open one of these in the world, you're going to feel just overwhelmed with how special that card is. And you're probably going to make a ton of money. Or have a very cool collectible in your collection. And if on top of that, if you are a Prism or a Chain fan, oh my god. It's going to be living the dream if you're a Prism or a Chain fan and you open up one of those cards. Let's talk a little bit more about the players' reception. So the food they had, not terrible. The fish was a little dry, but I liked it. The cake though, bruh, the cake. Oh my god, I gotta figure out who or what bakery they had do the cake. That stuff was incredible. There were some pretty good questions during the Q&A, but one part that really got me was when a Brute player went up and asked when they're getting another blue 6 attack. And James White didn't hold back.
When, for the love of all that is holy, am I going to get another blue pitch 6 attack? It could be terrible.
Well, I'm really glad that you understand how important this constraint is. Like, the only thing that's keeping you from being a reasonable participant in Fish and Blood organized crime to being a degenerate, despised piece of shit is one more blue 6.
Moving into Friday morning, my alarm actually didn't go off for whatever reason. I looked at it, right day, right time, AM, not PM, just didn't go off. I don't know. But I wanted to wake up early so I can get in line for Metal Fab tokens to get one of his limited edition Pro Tour Baltimore pitch tokens, the blue ones that he showed off on Twitter. They were limited to 100 pieces, so really wanted to get there early. I did manage to get there in time, just in time to get one, so that was cool. He had a new playmat on display with 3 dragons and his logo, so I picked that up. I also got a Leviah hero pin, the funds of which go to support Mansant and his streaming efforts. Gotta support him, of course. Ethan, if you're listening to this, you're the GOAT, man. Keep up the hard work. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have all these awesome streams to watch, and you've really just leveled up every single time. So, I know you've been hitting some walls the last few times. Keep it up, man. It's gonna pay off. I also picked up a Rune Chant keychain and a Viscerized shirt from Flesh and Baubles, who was also there. Because, I had to. It's Visceri. Come on, guys. I had to get those. I went ahead and got some stuff signed after that, which we'll get to. Just trying to fill the time until we figured out where the meet and greet would be. Once we did, we went and lined up for that, for the meet and greet at 10 a.m. on Friday. James White came out, started going through the line, 2 or 3 minutes with each person. My nerves were just getting worse and worse and worse the closer I got to the front of the line, but that's just kind of how I am. Once I got up to talk to James and we did introductions, I was still stumbling over my words while we were talking, but it definitely got easier as we went on, and I really can't wait to meet him again because it'll feel just like a normal conversation then. I won't be nervous that time. I'll just want to talk to him, you know? But went up there, we did introductions. He asked me where I was from. I said New Jersey. He said, "Oh, did you go to Pro Tour New Jersey?" And I, gave him the whole spiel that I'm sure I've said many times on this channel, that I got into the game 2 weeks after Pro Tour New Jersey. It was devastating. I think the reason I really got interested in the game is because Rudy did a video on Pro Tour New Jersey, and I saw how popular the game was, and I had seen his video years before on how to play, and I was really interested, but I just didn't have the money to throw around on another TCG. I was so engrossed in Magic, and Magic wasn't cheap. I was trying to support like 13 EDH decks or something with every single set. It was just too much. Anyway, so I told him that. I was like, I've been playing TCGs for 25 years, but nothing has ever made me want to get as involved with the community as Flesh and Blood has. I went ahead and made a YouTube channel. I told him my wife came up with the name Ravenous Babble, and that Ravenous Rabble has now become a very important card to me, a very special card to me, so I presented him with a playset. I said it would mean the world to me if he would sign a playset of these that I could play with and show off and just have. And of course he graciously obliged. And I played those Ravenous Rabbles all weekend in my Azuri deck during the calling and during side events. It was great. I got a couple of compliments on them. He did mention that he was aware of my channel and that he doesn't have enough time to watch all the fab content out there, which makes sense. There's quite a few content creators now, and I'm not exactly big, so I get it. But it made me happy just to hear him say that he was aware of my channel. He did ask me if I got a spoiler card for Outsiders, and I said no, but I get it. It makes sense. There's a lot of content creators again, and I'm still getting the kinks out with my content creation, still trying to figure everything out. But I do think I'm starting to kind of get a feel for it, starting to figure out my style and direction, with these Babbling On videos, the monthly market watches, the occasional box break. But there's always the future when it comes to card spoilers. Hopes and dreams, right? Maybe dust till dawn, But that's not why we're here. That's definitely an awesome honor to get, to receive, but that's not why we're here. We're here to grow the community. We're here to cultivate the game, right? So I ended up giving him some Ravenous Babble sleeves, a Ravenous Babble playmat, and he said he would go back to LSS headquarters and give them out in the office, which I think is really cool that, I'm sure he gets a ton of gifts, so he brings them back home and gives them out to the team, which is really cool. So I'm just saying, if I ever see Ravenous Babble sleeves or my playmat in a picture from LSS or from one of the LSS employees playing it, I'm going to lose it. I'm just going to be ecstatic. So anyway, we took a photo, we said our farewells, and I was pretty starstruck, honestly, for the next few hours, to be totally honest. James is just legit one of the nicest people and most genuine people I've ever met, and I'm just so happy to be part of this games community. So after a few of our friends finished up with the meet and greet, we all went back to a table just to kind of figure out, all right, what are you guys doing today? It's like 11 o'clock, events are starting, where's everyone going to be, kind of thing. And I had to go through my abundance of cards that I brought with me to get signed by the artists, because I pretty much brought their whole library and playsets at that. So we're talking Mark Poole, Steve Argyle, Federico Musetti, and Isuardi Tharianto. And it took me a few minutes to figure out what I wanted to get signed, but once I did, I made my way over to essentially Artist Alley, met up with Mark Poole, got my Coalfoil Quiver of Rustling Leaves signed, my Coalfoil Plague Hive, which looks perfect, I love it. Followed up with Steve Argyle. I don't know if you've seen his sick Mythic signatures, where he signs the card and then runs it through this machine that kind of irons on a metallic signature on top of it. But I got a Coalfoil Icelander, Blood of the Drakai, and a Quiver of the Abyssal Depths, with the mythic signatures, and they look incredible. I also got my dragons signed by him and Federico, the two that they each did, to make my Dromai deck just look a little bit better. Now, Federico and Isawardi, I had to wait for a little bit till later in the day because their lines were just huge, and honestly, their card pools are bigger in general, so I really had to do some extra cuts for them because I'm not trying to break the bank, you know? Event weekends like this cost enough as it is. I did manage to make my way over to them later on, and I got a lot of different cards signed by them, probably too many to name, to be honest, but notably I got my Great Library of Solana signed by Federico, so 3 signed Fables down, a bunch more to go. I guess that's what I'm working toward now. And I pretty much just hung out for the rest of the day with our group. 2 of the members of We Make Best were staying with us as well, Balake and BNet. BNet was on fire that day and ended up going 7-0, completely undefeated on the day. So closing out the day, watching a tight match between him and Jamie Faulkner in person that was being streamed was an awesome experience. And I've gotten to spend some time with Balake in the past. He's an awesome dude, but this was our first time as a group hanging out with BNet, and he's just as cool. I love those guys. Now the question is, when are we gonna get to meet Tog? Tog? When are we doing the thing, huh? Balake is hanging around for a few months. BNet unfortunately had to fly out last night, Monday evening, after we came back for our local armory, so I'm glad he could at least do that. But it was really nice meeting you. Can't wait to see you again, Liam. I hope it's a lot sooner than later that we get to meet again. So Saturday was the calling. Went into it on Azuri. I went into it strong. I went 3-0 in the first 3 rounds against an Azalea, a Dromai, and a Bravo. Each game was a grind fest. They all went to time, not because anyone in particular like slow played, they were just grindy, just good games. But they all went to time, and I won each of them on the last possible turn. The Dromai player at one point, I got him down to 1 with 2 minutes left on the clock, flicked a knife at him. He plays 2 Sigil of Solace, goes up to 6, and I'm like, oh my god, we have 2 minutes. I just started speed playing. I'm like, we got to finish this game. Like, I'm not settling for a tie. But all 3 of those guys were awesome to play against. Every opponent I played against this weekend was awesome. Round 4, I looked at the name and I'm like, why does this name sound familiar? Who is this? And I couldn't place it for some reason. I go sit down, getting set up, and Tall Timmy sits down across from me. I'm like, oh, that's why it sounded familiar. So I was pretty starstruck while I was playing him, you know, before, during, after, and I kind of goofed really hard. I blocked out like a snatch for like 11 or something, and I could have very easily blocked for 12 without sacrificing anything in particular, and I didn't know what Amulet of Earth did. You can probably see where this is going. Amulet of Earth you can pop if you've used that turn to instant speed, give +1 power to a thing, and he kind of got the on hit, and it was kind of pointless for me to just block all that and have him still get the draw. So yeah, I goofed. You know, I done fucked up. It was a good game, regardless, even after the fact, and I got a picture with him afterwards, so it was really nice meeting you, Paul. Also, if you haven't met him in person, he is in fact very tall. The day kind of went downhill from there, sadly. I went 4-4 on the day. Most of our group finished 4-4 or 5-3, which I think is pretty good, to be totally honest. I can say that I've seen a noticeable improvement between all of us as a group. And while some of us may have had a worse day on the weekend, that doesn't mean that they're any worse. We've all improved a lot, and we're all growing, and we're all going to keep growing for the next event. And I'll tell you what, a lot of us are going to make day 2 next time. So, look out. But yeah, I definitely messed up quite a bit. I know what I messed up on. Definitely punted some of my games, some of my losses. But I went into there, and this isn't an excuse. This is, if anything, me acknowledging how incredible it was. I've had less than 20 games on Azuri before last weekend. And for me to go 4-4 in a calling, like, that felt good, to be honest. I can't say that if I had more reps, I would have gone like 6-2 or something based on the punts that I had. because who knows what it would have got paired into, how the games would have actually played out even after the fact. But I like Azuri. I like Viserai too. But I'm definitely going to continue playing Azuri, keep grinding it out, get reps on the deck, and my next plan is to at least get a top 8 in RTN to get the cold foil Azuri. If I get higher than that, if I get top 4, I get a PTI. If I win, I get the Jubil, which I actually really want compared to a lot of people that have just been trash talking Jubil, to be honest, as prize support. But I've been wanting a cold foil one, so you know what, we're gonna try and win it. Why not, right? Small goal of getting top 8, if you ask me. I think I can do it. Hopefully I just get Azuri. If I get a Riptide, maybe someone will switch with me. Every one of my locals is pretty cool with that, so we'll see what happens. But it's time to hit the grindstone. We're gonna actually go in with this deck, I think. Anyway, the rest of the day I spent mostly collecting signatures, mostly cards that I like changed my mind on after the previous day, that I was like, oh, you know, I can get a couple more cards signed, I can afford it. Or maybe, you know, Isawardi, he had so many cards I wanted to get signed, I didn't want to throw them all at him at once, so I kind of broke them up into separate sessions. And after that, pretty much called it a night. BNet unfortunately bubbled out of top 32, placing 33rd. Like, I saw he placed 33rd, and I didn't put 2 and 2 together that 32nd was the cutoff for a PTI, and once I found that out, I was like, oh man, that blows. So, that does suck. He still got, like, $1,000, I think. He did a fantastic job, and he shouldn't feel any different about that. He had a sick performance. Sunday was a chill day. I bought a bunch of stuff, got even more cards signed, played in the 2 p.m. Classic Constructed side event, and unfortunately went 0-3. Now, while that might sound absolutely terrible, each game did end with my opponent and myself at 1 life each. They were all nail biters. And honestly, every game this weekend was a nail biter, with the exception of the 2 games that I absolutely just punted. My round 1 opponent in the CC side event was a Viserai player, which, hey, it's interesting to finally be on the other side of the table of a Viserai, you know, being someone who's played it for so long now. And I did a good job of trying to keep tempo in the match by trying to hold a yellow or a blue for Arcane Barrier, trying to reduce that rune chant damage while also blocking appropriately the on hits like the meet and greets and whatnot, any kind of Malverian skies. And I think I did a really good job of doing all of that, but I definitely lost because of one particular turn, and this is just card game variance, it just is what it is. I only have 8 blues in my deck when I play against a Viserai, and 7 yellows. It wasn't too hard to have one in every hand, but on the one turn when he popped off with Mordred Tide into Rebel in Runeblood, I got a redliner. So could not reduce a ton of that damage, unfortunately. I did, however, leave no witnesses. His second Revel that he had in Arsenal the turn prior, if I didn't do that, I would have just died. I would have just been on the floor. So, you know, if I did have the AB on that turn, maybe the game would have been different. Again, can't say. But we had a good talk afterwards as Viserai players, and I gave him my last rune chant token that I had for my March patron rewards. I had 1 left. I have 2 for myself, 2 for Adam, 2 for Bill, my 2 patrons, and then I had 1 left over as kind of like a just in case one of them gets screwed up when I ordered the prints. So I gave him that last one because it just felt appropriate, you know. Speaking of giving things out last weekend, I tried my best to remember, and if I missed you, I'm so sorry, but I gave out Ravenous Babble stickers and magnets to each person I played. Drop a comment down below if I'm talking about you, and say hi, and let me know if we played during the calling or the CC side event. After the side event, I went over to the pit and watched Mara and Andrew play in the semifinals, a Draw My Lexi matchup. Such a great game to watch. Just chilling there, sitting down, watching high level Flesh and Blood in the Flesh and Blood. Michael Hamilton sitting 3 feet away from me. I'm like, what is happening? It felt so good to be at this event. But wrapping up the weekend, unfortunately, I did not get squat for tickets. so I couldn't get my cold foil gold token like I wanted. And I really do want one to match up with my Marble Crown of Dominion. So if you have one and you want to sell it or trade it, hit me up. YouTube, Twitter, whatever, hit me up. On that same note, if you have Pro Tour stamped assassin cards, I'm trying to just fill out my Azuri deck with some neat stuff. The James White Ravenous Rabbles, Pro Tour stamped stuff, crimped cards, like signed Cold Foil Plague Hive, all kinds of stuff. So if you have any Pro Tour stamped assassin cards that you don't really care too much about, I'll buy them, I'll trade for them, hit me up. Anywho, after all that, we left, and we were going to go out to Korean barbecue, which has pretty much become a tradition for our group at this point to celebrate the weekend. Whether it's to celebrate a good time, celebrate a good placing, just celebrating friendship, not to sound corny or anything like that, but that's what it is. We're just celebrating a good time, celebrating each other, celebrating the game and the community. It's a good time. But right before we left, my friend Eric, who played at the Pro Tour, takes a playmat tube, just taps it to my chest, and thanks me for arranging the Airbnb and for a great weekend. And I was kind of taken aback because I wasn't expecting something like this. I wasn't expecting anything at all, you know? They paid me for the stay. Not me, but they paid for their stay, and I'm not in debt to anyone, so, like, we're good. But I looked at the playmat tube, and I could see through it because it's a little transparent, and I saw the Pro Tour logo. And it hit me that this was his Arknight Shard playmat from the Pro Tour. And I didn't know what to say. And I asked him, I even take it out, I took the lid off, I took it out like an inch just to confirm, and I asked him if he was sure. And he said he was. I thanked him, I gave him a hug. I tried my best not to tear up and just, you know, have it turn into straight up crying, because, you know, once the floodgates break, you know, that's it. But when they announced Pro Tour Baltimore, I anticipated that they would have the Arknight Shard playmat as the playmat for the event, because that's the trend, you know. It was Heart, then Pro Tour 3 is going to be Arknight Shard. And when I found out that it was that playmat and it was going to be probably $250 to $300 on the secondary market, I kind of just wrote it off, you know. It was like, as a Runeblade main, I'm just like, I would love to have that, but that's too much money for a playmat. It's not like getting a functional card that's going to do something. It's a luxury playmat, you know. It doesn't do anything mechanically different than anything else other than look awesome. When he gave me that, it just really hit me in the feels, honestly. So, thanks again, Eric, if you're listening. Like, it really means a lot to me, man. If I expressed it any more to you in person, I probably would start bawling my eyes out. I'm still not sure if I'm going to play with it or get it framed. So I'm sorry if you don't see it in person with me playing on it. I don't want to start playing on it unless I'm sure I'm going to use it to be, you know, to play on it. I'm probably going to frame it, maybe. I got to look around for frames. I got to figure out what I'm doing with this thing. Because one way or another, it's either got to start getting used or it's got to get framed and put up on that damn wall. But what a great way to end a weekend full of great memories with great friends playing great games. The only regret I have from the entire weekend is that I saw numerous people that I wanted to talk to, that I wanted to introduce myself to, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because I'm just a shy person, you know? Fluke, Rudy, Saint, DM Armada, Flake, Sloop Dupe, who I was trying to find all weekend, but I literally didn't see until as I was walking out of the venue on the last day. TCG Ted. So many people. If I didn't name you, that doesn't mean I wasn't thinking about you. There were so many people that I wanted to meet this weekend, and I'm just a shy person. I kind of hoped that maybe they would come up to me, but again, my face isn't really out there that much. But yeah, so that's my goal for next time. 100%. Love the people in this community. Love this game. I'm going to make it a point next time that there's a big event to just build up the confidence and say hi. So if you saw me lingering around, maybe looking at you, peeping time to time, I promise I wasn't trying to be creepy. I was just trying to work up the confidence to walk over to you and say hi. But yeah, So can't wait till the next one. I'm going to man up and I'm going to talk to you. So be ready. Yeah, so until next time, stay safe. Keep playing those great games. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya. Shout out to the Ravenous Babble patrons who keep the channel going. If you would like to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/ravenousbabble and see which tier is best suited for you.